Plants, unlike green algae, live on dry land, for which they have special adaptations. They have a waxy outer layer called a cuticle that protects them against water loss. They have also evolved protective sex organs, called gametangia, that protect the gametes within them from drying out. All plants have an alternation of generations as part of their life cycle. Each generation develops into a multicellular organism. One generation is a diploid organism called a sporophyte, which produces the reproductive cells called spores. The spores of plants are produced by meiosis, so they're haploid. A spore can develop into an adult organism without interacting with any other cells. The other generation is a haploid organism called a gametophyte. The gametophyte produces haploid gametes, which unite in the process of fertilization to form a diploid zygote. The zygote develops into a sporophyte and the cycle. Some green algae, such as the seaweed ulva, undergo alternation of generations. In ulva, the sporophyte and the gametophyte look identical, although one is haploid and the other is diploid. In plants, as we'll see shortly, the two generations always look different. The bryophytes, an informal grouping of plants including the mosses, hornworts, and liverworts, have features in common with the earliest land plants. Except for some types of mosses, none of the bryophytes have any kind of vascular tissue. They rely on slow processes like diffusion to transport water and nutrients between their cells. All bryophytes are quite small, usually no more than a few centimeters tall, and they usually grow in moist environments. These characteristics allow the plant to stay hydrated, since they lack an efficient system to pump water to their more elevated parts. Bryophytes also need liquid water to reproduce, since their flagellated sperm must swim to their eggs in order to fertilize them. A film of water from dew or rain is sufficient to allow this to happen. Bryophytes have stem-like and leaf-like structures above ground and root-like structures below ground, but these structures are not homologous to those of other plants. The life cycle of a moss is typical of the bryophytes. In bryophytes, the gametophyte is the dominant generation. Gametophytes make up most of what you see in a mat of moss plants. Mosses have both male and female gametophytes. The males produce sperm cells in their gametangia, and the females produce egg cells. The sperm cell must swim to an egg cell through a film of water in order to fertilize it. After fertilization, the diploid embryo develops into a sporophyte, while it's still rooted in the gametophyte. The sporophyte of the moss is never independent of the gametophyte. At the top of the sporophyte is a capsule-like structure called a sporangium, in which haploid spores are produced by meiosis. Spores are released and spread by the wind. They germinate when they land on a suitable surface.